o'clock, but this meeting's supposed to be over at 7 o'clock. It's 10 after 7. How many guys want to stand and let me have 15 minutes? I got an hour and a half if you want that.
15 minutes is fine.
Give me 15 minutes and I'll get over part of it.
You got it.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, let's, before I start anything, I'd like to just take a moment. A couple of weeks ago, I was watching the Fox News with Chris Wallace on a Sunday morning, and come to find out that there are only about 2 million World War II veterans left alive. And we're dying at a ratio of about 1,000 to 1,100 a day. Now with my mathematics, that shows me that within 6 years, most of the World War II veterans are going to be gone. And the things that we saw, experienced, and lived through are going to be memories that only probably those of us who are living are going to share. So it's really important for me. I've never talked much about my experiences. My boys were never interested in anything I did in the Marine Corps. They were more interested in my business life and the things that I did with them when they were young. The only time I ever really discussed much about the Marine Corps is the old squadron reunions that when I was young we used to have, and now all the guys are dead, so we don't have squadron reunions anymore. So it's really neat to have the opportunity to share with you some of the experience that I had. But we're running late and I don't want to talk too much about it. But let me just tell you a couple of really funny things in the beginning. And then, every 15 or 20 minutes, if the Commandant will allow me, I'll just bring you up to date. You got to understand, I spent 21 months in combat in World War II and 10 months in Korea. So, it's very difficult to tell you much about the great experiences that I had in 21 months and 15 minutes. But let me start by telling you a really neat thing about how I became a Marine. Now, I didn't even know the Marine Corps had an air wing until I was listening to radio in free flight school at St. Mary's. And we were talking about the invasion of Guadalcanal by the 1st Marine Division and the magnificent work that was being done by Marine aviators fighting the Japanese Zero and helping the landing at Guadalcanal. As I told you, a couple of my bunkmates were Marine sergeants, but they didn't know anything about the Air Corps. They were grunts and they didn't know much about the Marine Air. And so I never thought much more about the Marine Air until Joe Foss, Marion Carl, and John Smith, when I was going through fighter school down in Corpus Christi, came and visited with us. And I looked at those guys and they told us about the fights and the rough way it was and the living conditions and all the things that they had to go through to guide those Marines. So after they got through talking about this, I decided that I'd like to make an application for the Marine Corps, which I did. And when I finished my flight syllabus and the ground school syllabus at Kingsville, they put us in a bus, took us over to Mainside for a survival school. So one day in the survival school, the word comes down that I'm to go to this certain building, a certain room in the building at a certain hour. And so I scramble over there and knock on the door, and the clerk says enter, go in, and there's another inner office, and he opens the door and goes in there, and he comes back out and says, come on in, cadet. I go in and there's a major and 2 captains on either side of the major. One of the captains was my fighter school instructor, Captain Erickson. And so he acted like he never saw me before. I act like I never saw him before. And the major has my flight jacket in his lap. The flight jacket was the record of everything you did, all your flight ups and downs and flight syllabus and ground school syllabus, everything. So I could see that he had looked at this flight jacket, and he said to me, he said, cadet, I don't think you're tough enough to be a Marine. Well, I was really taken aback by that, because I played football up to the pre-flight school, and I was always an officer in the cadet thing. Ended up as the battalion commander, and I thought, Jesus, what the hell is this? So the guy said, well, you know, we Marine aviators have got to be really tough guys. He said, we're going to be fighting in the jungle. It's rough down there. It's 3 degrees below the equator. It's humid, it's hot. The mosquitoes are bad, the flies are bad, it stinks. You're going to have dysentery at least 60% of the time. You're going to have malaria, you're going to be sick with malaria. And he said, the airplanes are all beat up, they're all shot up. There's no way to take good care of them. The living conditions are terrible. You're going to be sleeping in tents, and you may be lucky to get a shower maybe three times or every third or fourth day, and you're going to be flying every day, every other day. You're going to be in combat, and he said, you know, you got to be tough, and I don't think you can handle that. And I was really pissed. And he said, now if you stay in the Navy, you'll probably get carrier duty. You'll be eating off of white linen tablecloths on china, the Navy china. You'll be served with a steward. They'll have desserts, they'll have ice cream, you'll have fresh food. They have a beautiful ready room with leather lounge chairs that you can sit in for your briefings. He said, you know, that's really a nice way to be a naval aviator. And he said, have you got anything to say, cadet? And I looked him in the eye and I said, Major, I got this to say. If you're tough enough to be a Marine, you can bet your sweet ass I am. And with that, he looked up and said, you're dismissed. I got up and left and went back to class, and the guy said, how'd you do in the interview, Godbey? And I said, I blew that mother. And I said, I'm not really sure I want to be in that chicken shit outfit anyway. So about 2 days later, word comes down that I can go back to the same building and go into another office. I knocked on the door, the clerk opened the door, says come in. The door to the inner office is open, and I could see an officer sitting behind a desk there. And as I walk in, he gets up, and he is a lieutenant colonel. I've never even seen a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps before. This guy got salt and pepper gray hair. He's got a couple rows of ribbons. He's got the Navy wings, and he is a Marine out of a poster if you ever saw him. He walks into the room, sticks his hand out, says, I'm Lieutenant Colonel, blah, blah, I forgot his name. Come on in, cadet. Comes in, I went in. He said, have a chair. I sat in front of his desk. He gets around behind his desk. He says, so you want to be a Marine? And I said, yes, sir, but I think I flunked my test the other day in becoming a Marine with a major and those 2 captains. And he opened my flight jacket and he started laughing and he said, well, he said, that's funny. He says, my records show that you're highly recommended. And I was taken aback. My God, I highly recommended. And he laughed and he said, you got to understand, the Marine Corps doesn't have any billets. We don't have the authorization for any more squadrons as of this time. We don't have any funds for a lot of Marines. So he said, we try to be very selective of those few billets that we have to fill. And he says, that major and those 2 captains' job is to make it as miserable as they can for you cadets and see which one we're going to select. So I was very grateful, and he said, you understand you have to buy your own uniforms? Yes, sir. He handed me a couple of mimeograph sheets, and he says, these are the uniforms that you're going to be required to buy, and here's a list of the tailors in town, and they're all about the same price. So I'm going to ask the clerk to give you a pass, and I want you to go in town, and if you really want to be a Marine, I'll cut those orders this afternoon, transfer you out of the Naval Reserve into Marine Corps Reserve, and you go in town and get your uniforms ordered, and you make sure that you can have those for final fitting and have them in your hands. Final fitting no later than the 8th of July, because you're going to be able to graduate on the 10th. Your date of rank will be the 1st of July, 1943. So with that, I went in town and ordered my uniforms. Come back, there were 8 of us that graduated. There was a class probably, I don't remember, but say 30 or 40 cadets, I'm not sure how many. And we're on the ramp, and behind us is the platform with the officers, and I think the guy that was in charge of the thing was an admiral in the Navy, but they all sat on the ramp back there. The cadet regiment always has a parade. There's a graduation every other Saturday, graduating the classes every other Saturday. So we take the salute, and the band plays, and it's really a nice affair. We get our wings, and the thing is all over, and Captain Erickson comes down and finds me, and he congratulates me, and he said, I've been instructing in the fighter school now for 6 months, and you're the first one that of my cadets that has gone in the Marine Corps, and I'd like to congratulate you. He says, I got a little gift. And he gives me this little velvet box, and in that is this ring. And put that on, 10th of July, 1943, been on there ever since. So anyway, George and I, my buddy that graduated with me, there were 8 of us, by the way, that graduated out of this class of 30. 3 of us were from the fighter school, 3 were from the dive bomber school, and 2 from the torpedo bomber school. So the 8 of us went over and got our orders, and our orders were to Camp Kearney. And of course now we don't know anything about the Marine Corps, I mean 0. So we don't know where Camp Kearney is, and the guy, the clerk or the sergeant, whoever gave us the order said, well, what you got to do, your transportation is to San Diego. There'll be a bus to San Diego to take you to Camp Kearney. So we go to the train station, get our tickets. 2 or 3 days later, we're at San Diego, catch the bus to Camp Kearney, go into the headquarters building, present our orders, and the clerk, sergeant, whoever it was, takes the orders, and he says, well, you guys go over to the transit officers' quarters and barracks over there, and come back over here at 0900 in the morning. So we go over, and the guys issues a couple of sheets and a blanket, and we grabbed a cot and cleaned up and changed our clothes, took a shower, and went to the officers' club. Now here we are, brand new second lieutenants, boy, and first time in our lives we're going to the officers' club. So George and I didn't drink, so we go to the officers' club and have a Coke, find out where chow is, go to chow, go to a movie that night. 0900 we go back over to the clerk, and he says, all right, you guys go pick up your 782 gear. Now, I don't have the foggiest idea, none of us had the foggiest idea what 782 gear was, but we're new Marines, and that's probably some kind of thing Marines get. So he tells us where to go in the building over to the quartermaster. We go to the quartermaster building, and we start, and quartermaster sergeant says, yeah, we're expecting you guys, heard you were coming. He gives us a parachute bag, which is a bag about this long, like this high, that you carry parachutes around in. So we take the parachute bag, and he says, you just go down this counter, and they'll give you your gear. So we go down the counter, we get an entrenching tool, we get a SEAL helmet, get a 45 with a shoulder holster, get a K-bar knife, get a mess kit, get poncho, get 3 sets of dungarees, 6 skivvy shorts, 6 t-shirts, socks, you know, the whole thing. And the sergeant, at the end of the big thing, there's a stencil machine. So they cut a stencil and stencil our names on these bags, and stowed our bags. And we go back over to this clerk, and he says, well, I got your orders ready. And he said, you guys are on your own now until noon on the 29th, which gave us, 4, 5, 6 days. So I said, where are we going? And he says, you're going overseas. I said, overseas? We haven't done a transitional flying yet. He says, Lieutenant, I have no idea what you're talking about. All I know is the orders say you're going overseas. So I called home. My mom and dad came to pick me up, and I was going to have a few days at home. George lived in Idaho, so I said, George, you can't go to Idaho. So you come home and spend a few days with me. George and I went home. My dad took us around to his jobs. He's a contractor, to meet all his buddies and all that. So we had a good time. And we get back on the 29th before noon. And the guy said, well, go pick up your 782 gear, get your other gear, and be out here at 1400, 1500, whatever it was. That bus will pick you up and take you down to North Island to board the ship. Jeez, we hadn't been through transition. We'd only been, never flown anything but a trainer. So we thought to ourselves, well, you know, this is pretty nice. We're probably going over to Honolulu, to Hawaii, and do our transitional flying over there. This is really neat. So, you know, 5, 6, 7 days, we get to Eva in Honolulu, check in, and we got a logbook, and the guys looked at the logbook and he said, Jesus, what the hell are you guys doing here? I have no idea. All we know is the orders, and then he said, well, you know, we don't have any airplanes, we don't have any syllabus, we don't have any instructor, we can't instruct you guys. And he said, you come back over here tomorrow morning. So we went and grabbed the trans officer's bunk and got back over there in the morning. He said, well, they've been talking back to the States and they're going back and forth and they still don't know what to do with you. So you guys are on your own. So we went into town. Honolulu, you had to be off the streets at 6 o'clock in those days. So we went in and looked around Honolulu, got a bus back out of the States, out to the station, and the guy says, well, they decided that there's a dive bomber squadron that's out at Midway right now doing its workup to go down the Guadalcanal. And they decided to get temporary orders for you guys to get with that squadron and go down to Guadalcanal. So that is all for tonight. It's late enough. I appreciate you listening to me for a while. And we'll carry on the real goody part of this story the next time we have time.
Excellent job. And I can assure you, young man, that the Marine Corps is still just as confused today as it was then. But it's still the best in the world.